We're glad One Chicago sidelined 7 characters in one night. Here's why. One Chicago is experiencing growing pains. The franchise has been around since 2012, and like most shows that have crossed the decade mark, it's gone up in cost and cast salary. NBC renewed all 3 of the franchise's shows, but the network also laid down some ground rules regarding the amount of time actors appear in a given season. These rules were on full display Wednesday, May 7. Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago PD aired new episodes, and all 3 of them were missing crucial cast members. Med was down Dr. Hannah Asher, Jesse Schramm, despite the character's brief cameo on Chicago Fire. The firefighting drama had to make do without 4 of its central characters, including Sam Carver, Jake Lockett, Lizzie Novak, Jocelyn Houdon, Don Pascal, Dermot Mulroney, and Violet McCamey, Hanako Greensmith. By the time we got to Chicago PD, we were worried that the entire E would be missing. Thankfully, we were only missing 2 officers, Kiana Cook, Toya Turner, and Kevin Atwater, Leroyce Hawkins. We've gotten to a point where 2 MIA characters in a given episode is actually a relief. You might have read the headline for this piece and scratched your head, given the positive spin that we are trying to put on a week that depleted us of some of our favorite characters. Here's why. One Chicago has been forced to sideline characters in episodes in which they are less important or blatantly uninvolved with the main plot. The episodes that aired May 7 were character pieces that focused on a handful of people spread throughout the franchise. The episodes that will follow on May 14 and May 21 bring the curtain down on their respective seasons. In other words, the franchise made the unfortunate but necessary decision of benching over half a dozen characters so that they could be front and center during the final episodes of the season. It would be far more upsetting if, say, Atwater and Cook were absent from the 2-parter Chicago PD finale, in which the IU planned to take down Deputy Chief Reed, Sean Hitosi. Similarly, it would be indescribably frustrating if Carver to miss out on the Chicago Fire finale, given that he literally won't be around for the next season. He only has 2 episodes left before his arc is over, so if he had to sit out an episode, we prefer it be one like Cut Me Open, where he wouldn't have had much to do besides stand in the background and toss in a few sarcastic remarks. Obviously, it would be ideal for all the One Chicago stars to appear in all the episodes. It's the way the franchise has operated since day one, but times have changed, and so have the economics of TV. We live in a world where concessions have to be made to keep shows we love alive. Consequently, we are relieved that we've gotten the absence of these characters out of the way before the important stuff comes about in the final episodes. In a bold, unexpected twist that left fans wide-eyed and group chats buzzing, the One Chicago universe did the unthinkable. It sidelined 7 major characters in a single night. That's right, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, and Chicago Med all pulled a coordinated disappearing act, trimming their ensemble casts for one night only. But here's the surprising part, we're not mad about it. In fact, we're glad it happened. Here's why. First, let's acknowledge the audacity of it. Most shows struggle to balance even 3 central storylines in a single episode, but the One Chicago universe juggles dozens of characters across 3 interlocking series every week. It's an impressive feat, but one that can also feel like watching a 3-ring circus where everyone's shouting their own subplot. By sidelining 7 characters, some fan favorites, some scene hoggers, the producers gave room for quieter arcs to breathe, emotional beats to land, and lesser-known characters to finally take the spotlight. Take Chicago Fire, for instance. With Severide off chasing arson leads in another state, and Stella Kid conveniently deployed at a leadership seminar, The episode shifted focus to Joe Cruz and newcomer Derek Gibson. And guess what? It worked. Cruz's storyline, centered around grappling with fatherhood and the haunting memory of Otis, had space to unfold without interruption. For once, the firehouse wasn't overrun with overlapping emergency calls and subplots, allowing us to sit in the moment with Cruz as he opened up to Ritter about feeling like he was failing at everything except saving strangers. Then there was Chicago PD, usually a Voight-dominated affair. But with Voight benched due to an off-screen suspension, thanks to another borderline illegal interrogation, Burgess and Atwater got a chance to lead the case. And it was glorious. We watched Burgess interrogate a suspect using empathy over aggression. Atwater navigated a personal conflict with a witness from his neighborhood. These aren't plotlines that could flourish under Voight's usual presence, and removing him let the show remember it doesn't have to be all gravelly voice and gray morality. Chicago Med arguably saw the most refreshing change. With Dr. Crockett Marceloff consulting at Mayo Clinic and Sharon Goodwin conveniently in Washington lobbying for funding, the reins fell into the hands of Dr. Charles and Dr. Asher. The quieter, character-driven moments between Charles and a schizophrenic patient struggling with reality were some of the most grounded the show has delivered in months. No surgical theatrics, no love triangles, just deeply human storytelling. We forgot how good Med can be when it slows down and listens. Now let's be clear. We're not saying these sidelined characters should stay gone. No one's trying to permanently banish Severide's hero moments or deny Voight his grizzled glare. But in a franchise that's become increasingly crowded, sometimes to the point of emotional detachment, this night of minimalism was a palate cleanser. It reminded us that less can be more, especially in a shared universe where storylines too often sprint when they should meander. There's also something thrilling about the unpredictability of it all. For too long, One Chicago has leaned on formula. Viewers could set their watches to certain beats. Voight would break the rules. Crockett would flirt with danger, and someone in scrubs. Kidd would deliver a stirring speech. But by removing those predictable pillars, the writers were forced to innovate. Plot choices felt riskier. Emotional stakes were higher. For once, we didn't know exactly how an episode would end, and that made for much better television. Another underrated benefit of the mass sidelining: the supporting characters finally got to feel like real people, not just set dressing. Firehouse 51's Violet and Ritter got a subplot involving a suspicious fire call that didn't involve a single explosion, but instead a tense ethical decision. PD's Deputy Superintendent Samantha Miller emerged from the shadows to challenge the department's use of surveillance tech, giving the show a rare moment of systemic critique. Even Med's Dr. Liu, often relegated to background status, stepped up with a story about end-of-life care that was surprisingly moving. If nothing else, the move revealed just how capable these shows are of evolving beyond their longtime leads. That's crucial as the franchise looks to its future. As actors move on, spin-offs swirl in development, and network priorities shift. One Chicago needs to prove it can thrive without relying on the same 7 faces. This episode proved it can. Of course, some fans balked. Where's Severide? Became a trending question on Twitter. Others complained that Voight's absence made PD feel off. But these moments of discomfort are necessary. Television shouldn't always cater to comfort. Great storytelling challenges its audience to lean in, recalibrate, and sometimes even change their minds about characters they thought they didn't care about. So here's to the chaos of change. To the writers who dared to tell the actors, "You're off this week." To the editors who let scenes breathe. To the producers who knew that sidelining 7 power players wasn't just a scheduling choice, it was a narrative strategy. And most of all, here's to the possibility that One Chicago, after more than a decade of running at full throttle, is finally learning when to hit the brakes. The engine's still strong, but now it knows how to idle just enough to let the story shine. Would you like a version of this styled as an online magazine article or blog post?